I, a female who is 24 years old, have been dating a male who is also 24 for a few months. We went out on Saturday with his friends to celebrate one of their birthdays. Throughout the night, he repeatedly told me he loved me and wanted to marry me, complimented my appearance, and even offered me food despite being intoxicated. However, I had a gut feeling that he might be interested in another girl who was also in the group. That night, I confronted him about it, and he denied having any interest in her. However, I later found out that he had been texting her. The messages included him expressing a desire to spend the night with her, asking if she got home safely, and suggesting that she should be with him. This information was not revealed to me until 4 days later when someone sent me the messages. When I confronted him again and showed him the evidence, he admitted to his action. He continuously apologized, hugged me, and claimed that he had no memory of doing those things and that they didn't mean anything. He couldn't explain why he would behave that way. While he was pleading for me not to leave, I gathered my belongings and prepared to leave. Despite feeling overwhelmed, I managed to stay composed during our in-person conversation. Eventually, I sat down on his couch to catch my breath, and he held me and began crying. He acknowledged that I didn't deserve what he did and believed that I shouldn't come back because of the pain he caused. He continued to hold me and cry. If I had not mentioned the possibility of working things out, he would have let me go. We discussed the situation, and at one point, I laughed about something. He commented saying, "There's the giggle I love." I couldn't help but feel something. We haven't been together for a long time, but we have been talking for a few months. I'm unsure of my feelings and whether I can still trust him. I asked him why he didn't tell me about the texts, and he claimed that he didn't know what to do. He had read the messages after waking up, deleted them because he didn't remember sending them, and said they didn't mean anything. He couldn't explain why he would do something like that because he didn't have any feelings for her. We talked for a while and attempted to go to sleep, but I couldn't doze off. After our failed attempt at sleeping, the emotions hit me all at once and I broke down in tears. I laid on the floor and cried, but he picked me up and carried me back to bed, trying to comfort me. Later on, I found myself back on the floor, sobbing again. Once more, he picked me up, placed me on the couch, and then carried me back to bed. He didn't say anything during these moments, only held me and gently stroked my head and back. The next day, I asked if he regretted his actions and how he felt. And he admitted that he felt terrible because I was wonderful and didn't deserve what happened. He repeatedly asked if I still wanted to continue the relationship. He has been the best partner I have ever had, treating me with kindness, care, and patience, even when I have been difficult. I'm at a loss for what to think now. Is this situation just a bump in the road, or should I end the relationship? Any advice? Additionally, he informed me that he will no longer drink to the point of intoxication and will limit himself to 2 drinks to avoid becoming incoherent again. In the past, he has expressed a desire to quit drinking entirely, and this incident has strengthened his commitment to that goal. I also requested him to demonstrate his remorse and seriousness about our relationship, giving him the freedom to decide how to do that. I'm uncertain about the future, but for now, this is how I am addressing the situation. I asked him to write a 3-page essay explaining why he is interested in me, why we should continue the relationship, what he did wrong and his thoughts on it, and how he plans to improve moving forward. Almost forgot. Thank you to everyone who replied. I was viewing things through rose-colored glasses. I have decided to end the relationship. Thank you all for the excellent advice. Thank you for all of the wonderful and thoughtful responses. Thank you for taking the time to provide advice to a stranger. I truly appreciate all of you. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He's literally been the best person I've been with and treats me so well and literally hits every mark. He clearly misses the mark behind your back and can't be trusted at all, so it's key to take him off the pedestal. He deleted the messages because he did not even remember sending them. LOL. That doesn't even matter or make sense. As though it just wipes it out, lol. What a charming fellow. It doesn't matter that he said he doesn't remember, LOL. What else would he say? People don't do things unless they would actually act on them. Some things can't just be glossed over. He literally wants to sleep with other women. His tears mean nothing. It's to manipulate you because you found out. Please respect yourself. This guy is a lying goof. Who knows what else he has done that you don't know of? This is definitely not the first. He's way too comfortable. You've only been seeing him a few months, and he is already doing this? He's pathetic. Comment 2. You're asking for advice and opinions, but you're not listening. This gent used some very classic manipulation and reverse psychology tactics on you. Key points. 1. He remembers sending those messages. 2. Crocodile tears work best for forgiving and foolish hearts. 3. Who he is, while he is in your presence, is clearly not who he is when he thinks the world isn't looking. 4. Alcohol doesn't change the caliber of the person. It reveals their truth. 5. He absolutely does want to have intimacy with another woman and would absolutely act on a green light. Please don't stay in a relationship that is at the beginnings of becoming emotionally unstable and toxic. Find your shine and respect yourself enough to recognize you deserve better. Best of luck. Now, for the update. Thank you for all the wonderful and thoughtful responses. So, after I decided to end the relationship, things got pretty intense. The first few days were a blur of emotions. I felt a mix of relief and sadness, but I knew it was the right decision. I focused on myself and tried to keep busy with work and friends, but then something unexpected happened. About 3 days after the breakup, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept or eaten in days. He handed me a letter and asked me to read it. I was hesitant, but I took it. The letter was heartfelt and raw. He apologized again for what he did and explained that he had started seeing a therapist to understand his actions better. He also mentioned that he had joined a support group for people struggling with alcohol. Reading the letter stirred up a lot of emotions. I could see he was genuinely trying to change, but I wasn't sure if it was enough. We talked for a while, and he told me more about his therapy sessions. He had started to uncover some deep-seated issues from his past that he had never dealt with. He admitted that he had always used alcohol as a way to escape his problems, and this incident was a wake-up call for him. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but I was still wary. I told him that while I appreciated his efforts, I needed more time to think. He nodded and left, but not before asking if we could meet again in a week to talk. I agreed, but I made it clear that I wasn't making any promises. During that week, I did a lot of soul-searching. I talked to my friends and family, and they all had different opinions. Some thought I should give him another chance, while others believed I should move on for good. I also spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship and what I wanted for my future. When we met again, he seemed more composed. He told me about the progress he had made in therapy and how he was learning to cope with his issues in healthier ways. He also mentioned that he had been sober since the incident and planned to stay that way. He showed me a journal he had been keeping, filled with his thoughts and reflections on our relationship and his personal growth. As we talked, I realized that I still had feelings for him, but I also knew that trust was a huge issue for me. I told him that if we were to try again, it would have to be a slow process. We would need to rebuild trust and take things one step at a time. He agreed and said he was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. We decided to start with small steps. We began meeting for coffee once a week to talk and catch up. These meetings were a mix of emotions. Sometimes we laughed and reminisced about the good times, and other times we had deep, serious conversations about our feelings and what went wrong. It was during one of these conversations that he opened up about his childhood. He told me about his parents' tumultuous relationship and how it had affected him growing up. His father was an alcoholic, and his mother was emotionally distant. He had never felt truly loved or supported, and he realized that he had been carrying that baggage into our relationship. This revelation was a turning point for both of us. It helped me understand why he had acted the way he did, and it also made me see that he was genuinely trying to change. As the weeks went by, we continued to work on our relationship. We attended a couples therapy session, which was incredibly helpful. The therapist helped us communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. We also set some ground rules to ensure that we were both on the same page. One of the rules was complete honesty, no matter how difficult it might be. One evening, while we were having dinner, he brought up something that had been bothering him. He admitted that he had always felt insecure about our relationship because he thought I was too good for him. He said that his actions that night were a result of his insecurities and fear of losing me. This confession hit me hard. I had never realized how deeply his insecurities ran, and it made me see him in a new light. I also shared some of my own insecurities and fears. I told him about my past relationships and how they had left me with trust issues. We both realized that we had a lot of work to do, not just as a couple, but as individuals. We made a pact to support each other in our personal growth and to be patient with each other. As we continued to rebuild our relationship, I noticed a change in him. He was more attentive and considerate, and he made a genuine effort to show me that he was committed to making things work. He also encouraged me to pursue my own interests and hobbies, which helped me regain my sense of self. One day, while we were out for a walk, he stopped and looked at me with a serious expression. He told me that he loved me and that he was willing to do whatever it took to make our relationship work. He said that he had never felt this way about anyone before and that he couldn't imagine his life without me. His words brought tears to my eyes, and I realized that I felt the same way. We still have a long way to go, but I believe that we are on the right path. We are both committed to working on our issues and building a stronger, healthier relationship. It's not going to be easy, but I am hopeful for the future. Thank you for reading. Aita for reading my husband's diary and confronting him about his happiness. 1 44-year-old female, have been with my husband, 44-year-old male, for 23 years, married for the last 20, and we have 6 kids ranging from 18 to 4 years old. In my eyes, we have a great relationship. He has climbed the corporate ladder over the years, and I've been a stay-at-home mom since our oldest was born. My husband won't admit it and will give me the credit, but he is honestly the backbone and glue of our family. He never fails to show me and the kids how much he loves and adores us. He's a very involved father and makes sure to spend meaningful time with each of our kids. He makes sure I get some me time after being with the kids all day, and always goes above and beyond to spoil me in every way possible. I try to be the loving and supportive wife and mother of his children that he absolutely deserves. Even after being together for so long, I still get butterflies every time I look at him, and my love and attraction for him grows each day. My husband had a less than ideal upbringing. His father had a tough love, but missed the love part. He was physically and emotionally hurtful and suppressed his interests and opportunities, and his mother was powerless and afraid to stop him. By the time my husband was 14, he started putting all his energy into sports and a part-time job as a means to stay away from home for as long as possible. He also has a form of high-functioning attention deficit hyperactivity disorder that enables him to be very smart and calculated, but makes processing and dealing with emotions and feelings difficult. I read a post about someone reading their husband's diary a couple of days ago, and my curiosity got the best of me, and I ended up reading through part of my husband's diary. Most of it was as expected, about me, the kids, work, gym progress, and friends. A few weeks ago, a friend of his drunkenly asked him if he was happy, and it looks like that question has been in my husband's head ever since. In his diary, he wrote that he does not understand what it means to be happy, and he doesn't know how to answer if someone asks if he is happy. He writes about focusing on personal and family fulfillment over happiness since they make more sense to him. He writes that things like finishing a huge project at work, growing his secondary income, and breaking his own records in the gym gave him personal fulfillment, while things like shielding our family from the stresses of work, bringing me flowers and seeing the smile on my face, helping our son study film for football, teaching our daughter the piano, etc., bring him a sense of family fulfillment, in the sense of ensuring that our family is built on solid, loving relationships and growth. I don't know what to think. On one hand, he always has mine and our kids' best interests in heart, but on the other, is our wonderful family not enough for him to feel happy? I get he had a terrible childhood and feelings are hard for him to process. I really do and would do anything to take that away from him. I just wish he could feel the same happiness that he brings me. Too long, didn't read. Found out that husband of 20 years doesn't feel happiness in our family and focuses on fulfillment instead. Don't know what to think. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It sounds like he maybe has a difficult relation to his emotions in general and finds it easier to wrap his mind around fulfillment, basically completing things that he wants to do and that he wants for the family, rather than the more nebulous idea of happiness. I don't really think this is a big deal. I think he just doesn't think of his life in those terms. He doesn't seem unhappy or wanting a big change or something. He just uses accomplishing goals as a metric for how his life is going more than feeling happy. And I feel like that's pretty valid. Comment 2. You really buried the lead. Title should be, I read my husband's diary and now I regret violating his privacy. How do I redeem myself? Oddly enough, he sounds remarkably happy and fulfilled, despite his shitty upbringing. I'm not sure how you interpret his words any other way, but I suppose is what you deserve. He's doing his best to process his own trauma without punishing his family for it. And his reward was you helping yourself to his private thoughts. You need to understand the real issue here, why you felt the need to breach his trust. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. This past week has been, well, I'll just get into it, of emotions and events. After reading my husband's diary, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I decided to confront him about it, but I wanted to do it in a way that wouldn't make him feel attacked or judged. So, I waited for the right moment. That moment came sooner than I expected. Last Friday, after the kids were in bed, we were sitting on the couch watching a movie. I paused the movie and turned to him. I told him I needed to talk about something important. He looked concerned but nodded. I took a deep breath and told him about reading his diary. I could see the shock and hurt in his eyes, but I pressed on. I told him I was worried about what I read, about him not understanding happiness and focusing on fulfillment instead. He was silent for a long time, and I could see him struggling to find the right words. Finally, he said that he wasn't angry at me for reading his diary, but he was disappointed. He explained that his diary was his private space to process his thoughts and feelings, and he felt violated. I apologized and told him I understood, but I was still worried about him. He sighed and said that he's always struggled with understanding emotions, especially happiness. He said that growing up in a hurtful household, he never really learned what happiness was supposed to feel like. He learned to find fulfillment in achievements and in taking care of others, because that was something he could control and understand. He said that he loves our family more than anything, but he doesn't know if he'll ever truly understand what it means to be happy. I didn't know what to say. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that he was opening up to me, but sadness that he felt this way. I told him that I loved him and that I wanted to help him find happiness, whatever that might look like for him. He smiled and said that he appreciated it, but he didn't want me to worry about him. He said that he's content with his life, and that's enough for him. The next few days were tense. I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation, and I could tell he was on edge, too. Then, on Tuesday, something happened that forced us to confront the issue head-on. Our 16-year-old daughter came home from school in tears. She had a rough day and was feeling overwhelmed with schoolwork and social pressures. My husband tried to comfort her, but she snapped at him, saying that he didn't understand what it was like to feel overwhelmed and unhappy. That hit him hard. He looked devastated, and I could see the pain in his eyes. He went to our bedroom and shut the door. I followed him and found him sitting on the bed, staring at the floor. I sat next to him and put my arm around him. He looked at me and said that he felt like a failure as a father. He said that he's always tried to be there for our kids, but he feels like he's failing them because he doesn't understand their emotions. I told him that he's not a failure and that our kids love him. I said that it's okay to not have all the answers and that we can figure this out together. He nodded, but I could see that he was still struggling. That's when I made a decision. I told him that we should see a therapist together. I said that it could help him understand his emotions better and help us communicate more effectively. He was hesitant at first, but he agreed. We had our first therapy session on Thursday. It was intense, but it was also eye-opening. The therapist helped us understand that my husband's focus on fulfillment is a coping mechanism he developed to deal with his traumatic childhood. She said that it's not uncommon for people with his background to struggle with understanding happiness. She gave us some exercises to help him connect with his emotions and suggested that he start individual therapy as well. The fallout from these events has been significant. Our daughter apologized to my husband for snapping at him, and they had a heartfelt conversation about their feelings. It was a breakthrough moment for both of them. My husband has also started to open up more to me about his struggles, and we're working together to help him find a sense of happiness. Looking back, I realized that my husband's upbringing has had a profound impact on him. He's always been the rock of our family, but he's been carrying a heavy burden. He's been trying to protect us from his pain, but it's taken a toll on him. I remember a story he told me once about his childhood. He said that when he was a kid, he used to escape to a nearby park to get away from his father. He would sit on a swing and imagine a different life, a life where he was happy and loved. That memory has stayed with him, and it's driven him to create a better life for our family. But now, it's time for him to find his own happiness. It's going to be a long journey, but I'm committed to supporting him every step of the way. We've already seen some positive changes. He's been more open with the kids about his feelings, and they've been more understanding and supportive. We're also making more time for ourselves as a couple to reconnect and strengthen our relationship. Thank you for reading. Aita for leaving my cheating fiancé and moving back in with my mom. I, 25, female, have been dating my boyfriend, 25, male, for 10 years. We are high school sweethearts. Last year, we had our first baby. The year before that, he proposed to me. I have been through a lot in this relationship, ranging from infidelity early on, blame this on us being kids, to just no effort as of recently. We have fought more than we ever have in our entire relationship. Recently, our arguments have been about a number of things. He speaks to me very disrespectfully. If I do something as simple as forgetting an ingredient while doing a delivery order for groceries for a meal he cooks, I can get berated for hours. Called names such as stupid and dumb. I have asked multiple times for him to stop degrading me by calling me names, because he does a lot of stupid things, yet I don't feel the need to degrade him. Another thing that we have been fighting about is that I feel like he is not contributing enough for us to be a 50-50th household. We make the same amount of money, which means we split the bills pretty evenly, but he does not contribute enough in our home. I do 85% of the housework. I do majority of the dishes. I do both our laundry and our baby's laundry. I clean our baby's bottles. I am the only one that cleans the bathroom or the kitchen. When he does dishes, he leaves the counters and floors dirty. I pick up everything in the house. I would not say our house is spotless, as I don't have time to be cleaning all the time. I do all of our grocery orders. I cook majority of the meals. I wake up with my son and put him to sleep every day. I feed my son majority of his meals. I take my son all of his baths. I work 40 hours a week. On a good week, he'll work 50, 60 hours a week. And he'll get paid more than me and contribute a bit more to bills. But that's not an every week thing. So usually he also works 40 hours a week. I am blessed to be able to work from home, so we do not have to pay for childcare. But that also means that while I'm working, I spend every second of work with my baby. Today, I brought all of this up to him and explained that he would have to find a better paying job. He is a young, able-bodied, smart man who could be making a lot of money somewhere else if he applied himself. Oregon, he would have to help out more around the house. When I explained everything I said above, he said that all I do besides him are laundry and dishes. This really hurt because I wasn't trying to say he didn't do anything. I am just saying I have a lot on my plate, and it's not fair to me to carry the emotional, mental, and physical labor of the household while also working 40 hours a week. I feel like he feels like that, since I get to stay home for work, that my job is easy and that it's easy to work and be with the baby. He even said that if I can't do the dishes and laundry that I'm stupid because those are easy to do. I told him if they were so easy, why does he never do them? I just feel like he's really complacent in life, and since we have been together so long, I feel like he feels I will just continue to deal with this for the rest of my life and never leave him. I love him so much. He is my first boyfriend, the person who took my virginity and the father of my child. I have not been single ever, as I was a child when we met. I'm so afraid of being a single mother. I'm so afraid of being alone. Our lease ends at the end of September. Unfortunately, if I did break things off with him, I would have to go back to living with my mother. The car we share and I have been helping with payments for would be his, as it's in his name, and I don't drive. I could not afford the apartment we live in right now without him. I have dreamt my whole life to be where I am at right now, but I can't live off of a dream. I can't be happy just because I have my own family, apartment, and shared car with my fiancé. Is there anything I could do to make him change? Or do you think it's a lost cause? I want nothing more than for my son to grow up with both parents, but at the same time, I don't want him to see me unhappy. I'm in between a rock and a hard place because I genuinely love my boyfriend and would do almost anything to make this work, but I don't think he even wants it to work anymore. Any advice would be great. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm so afraid of being a single mother. I'm so afraid of being alone. You are already both of these things, but you have the added stressor of a slob that calls you names, belittling your hard work. You have a job and you take care of the home, and he has the audacity to make you feel worthless, neglecting his kid, and cheating. You're not his slave. You're a human being worthy of love and respect. Don't you want to protect your kid from verbal abuse or worse? Protect him from learning by your example that they should stay with someone who mistreats them? If not for you, then for your kid, talk to your mother and an abuse hotline in secret and get out of there. Comment 2. So, do I understand correctly? He has cheated on you. He is currently emotionally and verbally hurtful. He does not help with taking care of his child. He contributes almost nothing to the household beyond cooking some meals and money. Can you help us internet strangers understand why you have stayed with him, let alone had a child with him? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, 2 weeks ago, after our big argument, I decided to take a different approach. I sat down with my boyfriend and tried to have a calm, rational conversation about our future. I told him that I was feeling overwhelmed and that we needed to find a way to balance things better. He seemed to listen, but I could tell he was annoyed. He said he would try to help out more around the house, but I could see in his eyes that he wasn't really committed to changing. A few days later, I noticed he was making a bit more effort. He did the dishes without me asking and even cooked dinner one night. I thought maybe things were starting to turn around. But then, he started coming home later and later from work. He said he was working overtime to make more money, but I had a feeling something was off. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. One night, he came home really late, and I could smell alcohol on his breath. I asked him where he had been, and he got defensive, saying he had just gone out for a drink with some coworkers. I didn't want to start another fight, so I let it go, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something from me. The next day, I decided to check his phone while he was in the shower. I know it was an invasion of privacy, but I needed to know what was going on. I found messages between him and a woman from his work. They were flirty and suggestive, and it was clear that something was going on between them. My heart sank. I confronted him as soon as he got out of the shower, and he denied everything at first. But when I showed him the messages, he couldn't deny it anymore. He admitted that he had been seeing her for a few weeks, and that he didn't know how to tell me. I was devastated. I felt like my whole world was falling apart. I couldn't believe that he would do this to me, especially after everything we had been through. I told him that I needed some time to think, and that he should stay with a friend for a few days. He agreed and left, and I was left alone with our baby, trying to figure out what to do next. During those few days, I thought a lot about our relationship and what I wanted for my future. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this, constantly feeling unappreciated and disrespected. I deserved better, and so did our son. I decided that I needed to end things with him, even though it was the hardest decision I had ever made. When he came back to talk, I told him that I couldn't be with him anymore. He was angry and tried to blame me for everything, saying that I had pushed him away and that it was my fault he had cheated. I didn't let his words get to me, though. I knew that I was making the right decision for myself and for our son. The fallout from our breakup was tough. I had to move back in with my mom, which was a huge blow to my pride. I felt like I had failed, but I knew it was the best thing for me and my son. My mom was supportive, but I could tell she was disappointed that things hadn't worked out. She helped me get settled and took care of my son while I tried to figure out my next steps. I also had to deal with the financial consequences of the breakup. Without my boyfriend's income, I couldn't afford our apartment. So I had to break the lease and pay a hefty penalty. I also had to give up the car, which made getting around a lot more difficult. I felt like I was starting from scratch, but I tried to stay positive and focus on the future. As I settled into my new life, I started to reflect on my relationship with my boyfriend and why things had gone so wrong. I realized that I had been ignoring a lot of red flags over the years because I was so afraid of being alone. I had put up with his disrespect and lack of effort because I didn't think I deserved better. But now I knew that I did. I also thought a lot about my own upbringing and how it had influenced my choices. My parents had a tumultuous relationship, and I had always vowed that I wouldn't end up like them. But in trying to avoid their mistakes, I had made my own. I had stayed in a toxic relationship for far too long because I was afraid of being a single mother and repeating my parents' history. One night, as I was putting my son to bed, I thought about my own childhood and how my mom had struggled to raise me on her own. She had made a lot of sacrifices for me, and I realized that I needed to do the same for my son. I wanted him to grow up in a loving, supportive environment, even if that meant doing it on my own. I started to make plans for the future. I looked into getting a better paying job and started saving money so that I could eventually get my own place. I also reached out to some old friends and started rebuilding my support network. I knew that I couldn't do this alone, and I was grateful for the people who were there for me. As I moved forward, I tried to focus on the positives. I was free from a toxic relationship, and I had the opportunity to build a better life for myself and my son. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined to make it work. I knew that I had a long road ahead of me, but I was ready to face whatever challenges came my way. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.